If you're gonna build a custom home, I think it's good to start with an architect. I do think it's helpful. Pick a builder like Tom, and this really is important, who's comfortable building a custom home. You know, he's comfortable taking on something that's never been built. So pick the right builder.
First of all, you need to hone in on what style you want, because there's so many styles out there. Because then your outside is going to determine then what you're going to put on inside as well.
I had a decorator, Mandy Miller, who's extremely helpful in that process. She just had a lot of knowledge about different things, picking lighting and those kind of things, and that was helpful, I think. Going to visit a home-orama or a home show can be really helpful in getting ideas. My fiance Tiffany and I went to a home show up north side of Indy and found the shower and a tub in the same kind of wet room space that really worked out well for here. This table that we found going through there, they had something similar with the big beams and a cement top table that we were able to then incorporate here, and just brought the idea to Tom, and they were able to make it come to life. So I think visiting those kind of things can be really helpful to give you some ideas.
Financially, don't plan at the limit of your ability. When I watch those home improvement shows, and the two brothers say, well, we're gonna go over budget. I think, really? You haven't got $5,000 extra to get what you really wanted? So an architect will cost, we were told 6 to 8% of the cost. Mm-hmm. If you're gonna go with a custom home, I think it would be a great way to go. And don't set your original budget target to be the absolute most you could afford, because along the way, something's gonna come up and you're gonna wanna bump out a wall or make room for the hot tub, or some other change that really is going to extend the deck, that's really going to make it a nice home the way you want it, and you don't want to say, gosh, we can't do that.
It takes longer than you think. Right whenever you're all ready to move in, there's still a bunch of things that have to happen before you actually get in, and that part's going to take a little longer. And with any huge project, no matter what it is, there are always going to be little things that are going to require circling back and doing some touch-ups and fixes here and there. And it's great to have someone who's responsive to those things. And I found that with Tom and Chase.
If you want to, as a person, micromanage the build, I think you're going to be kind of miserable. And I think that's part of it.
That's where you trust the builder.
Yeah, you have to trust the builder, and you have to kind of let go a little bit and let them let them do what they do best and bring you in when they need you. But you have to trust them to do what they're doing best.
And then I think having a design person like Mandy was extremely helpful, particularly if you're busy. They're going to help make some choices about things I don't even know exist. They're kind of in that lane. So whether it's somebody like Mandy or someone who can help with those kind of decisions, I think that's kind of helpful as well.
Understand the full scope of what building a custom home is. It means you're picking the floor, you're picking every countertop, you're picking what the cabinets look like, all the hardware.
The edge on the countertop.
Yeah.
The doors. Yeah, I mean, it's well over 100 decisions.
Yeah, and I think
recognize that.
Yeah, I think that may be the part where someone getting ready to do a custom home may not realize just how much work there is for you.
You're going to put in a lot of time. My gosh, I don't know how many places we went to just to look for stone.
Right. And I do think the piece about picking the right builder is critical, because you're going to be partners through the whole build. And if you can't work together in a partnership, it's going to be a long 12 to 14 months, right? If you guys get off on the wrong foot with each other, or if you don't trust each other. And I do think we had a lot of trust and mutual respect for each other. And I think that's what made the process go as smoothly as it did. But yeah, I think if you're going to build a custom home, you have to trust the person you're building with and not try to micromanage it. And that's hard for a lot of people. I have a lot of friends that are engineers that want to micromanage everything. And I think you won't be happy if you're trying to do that.
Jeff, our architect, part of his goal was to design something, when you see it from the lake, that we have this beautiful hill to the west, right? If you're on the lake and you see our house, that's the backdrop. So, the materials and the colors. With the architect, we had settled on this modern design. You know, for instance, that entry with the cool slope, it actually leads to some funky ways you've got to tie that into the roof. And Tom worked through all of that. Architects are great. They don't always think about how you're gonna, I'm not making fun of you, Jeff, sorry, but they don't always think about how you're gonna make it.
How you're gonna actually build it.
Yeah, actually build it. And
that's
Tom
where
and Jeff
Tom always
worked
figured
through
it out.
all of that.
They always figured it out.
You know, we wanted floating cabinets. We wanted the floating shelves, and it's not that they're difficult, but not everybody does that.
Yeah, I think the probably the one real must-have was like the walnut, because you know, if you do anything mid-century, walnut was the big mid-century material, and that's something we really wanted to bring in to the house. So working with, you know, the cabinet guys to get these big, thick walnut shelves. And I don't think that was stuff maybe Tom had sourced before, but he didn't have any problem finding the right people and working through that.
For me, the vision kind of came from this land. I've owned this land for a long time, and there was an old barn that kind of sat here, and I'd stand there thinking this would be a cool place for a house. So I always kind of had a vision of what kind of a house would look good up on this hilltop. So kind of a modern farmhouse was in my mind. And my fiance had some input, so it wasn't too masculine. We softened it up a little bit over time. So I utilized both my fiance and a decorator to kind of make sure it didn't end up too much of a Cabela's.
You know, in hindsight, it seems pretty smooth. At the time, it's pretty stressful.
You know, you're pretty stressed when something doesn't go right. And so being able to quickly, you know, sit down together, I never felt like we couldn't pick up the phone and say, hey, we need to talk about this, or, you know, send a text or an email, and, you know, they'd be there that night. Or even now when we've had a couple things need work, you know, Tom's here pretty quick.
Yeah, we usually plan it when hey, we're going to be on vacation. You can do it then. July 4th of 21, the hardwood floors were going in, weren't fully done. Well, you get a sample about this big when you pick the hardwood floors, right? And there's something called heartwood from the center of the black walnut that's very light colored. Whole pieces, not very big, but whole pieces were that color. And it looked like, we thought, it's not a checkerboard. The next morning, the sub was out here, John Hendrick and Tom, and it turns out it was no big deal. He said, oh, we can fix that. We just won't use any of those. So it's a good example of something that kind of gave us a lot of heartburn, but it was pretty easy to fix.
Well, and part of it is they're so neat when they're building. All the hardwood floors were covered up. So
You've got this with that cardboard stuff down,
butcher paper or whatever.
Yeah.
So we never saw like the whole room, and we're in here showing our friends, and we pull back a piece of this butcher board, and it's like, oh my gosh, you know. And
who threw in white oak?
Yeah, and 24 hours you're upset, and then not a problem. You know, they got everyone out here, and it was fixed within days.
You know, it all went really well. Some of the things were extremely heavy, like a safe door into the basement that was 1,600 pounds. They had to kind of come up with some unique ways to get that into position, and building a custom table, utilizing the beams we referenced. They were able to handle those kind of parts and then take our input and make changes as necessary. For me, it was a fun process. I know people think that it's painful. It was really kind of an enjoyable process to make the decisions and to kind of see it come to life. It's going to be a lot of decisions, and there are going to be surprises along the way, but you want to be with somebody that you can work with throughout that whole process. If it's what you want to do and it's in your budget, then I wouldn't hesitate to build something custom that you can make exactly what you want to live in the rest of your life, or, you know, raise your family in, or whatever.
It's an endeavor.
It is.
And I think we did it right. People talk about their forever home. You know, we could be happy here forever.
Feel so much peace being here, because it is our design, and we're so calm. People that come out here, we have lots of friends. We designed it so we could have lots of friends come out. They feel the same way.
You know, every time we bring a guest here who hasn't seen it before, they're always extremely complimentary of the way that it all ties together. We love it. You know, I mean, I think the mornings out on the front porch, being able to drink your coffee, and in the evenings we're in the shade in the back, and you can sit and watch the horses graze. There's just a lot of really cool stuff. Feels like our space, which is kind of unique and nice.
In a building project things aren't going to always go perfectly. And it's how you handle when there is a problem, I think, that makes a difference. And I think Tom always did a really good job of pretty quickly fixing, whatever went wrong. And the other thing I would say for the neighbors in the neighborhood, we would always get feedback that, oh, your builder is so neat. Every night they clean up the street before they go home. And I have this saying I use with the kids that everything speaks. And those little things do say something. They say that you care about how you're leaving, the project every night, and everything does speak.
We have just always been really impressed with what he's done. There was never ever with Tom a definite no. Tom just would always say, I think we can do it. Gary and I loved his personality and loved that he just thinks outside the box.
Well, Tom and I have been friends for years, but somebody I can communicate with and who's receptive to doing unique and different things. I wanted, in-floor heat. We wanted to convert this from an outdoor space to more of a four-season room, the room we're sitting in. So there were a lot of different things, and having somebody you could communicate with easily really helped that process a lot.
We had found someone that could see our vision. He wants to do what you want to do. You give him, your budget. He'll try to do it the best he can. Some of the things are over and beyond of what you could have even expected. So who wouldn't want to build with a builder like that?
Friends of ours, neighbors of ours have gone with Tom. We still consider Tom and Chase friends.
Absolutely. And I always felt they had our best interests at heart. We had a building situation in '94 where the builder got behind in money very early.
So he blew most of his profit up front, and it was a battle the whole way.
And the rest of the build, I felt like he was trying to cut corners to, make that money back. And
it was not a custom home either.
Yeah,
it was a model he built.
I've never felt that. I never felt that way with Tom.
I've heard of stories where, they go into their home as it's being built and it's totally different than what they had even imagined. Then they have to be the bad guy, the customer does, and say, you gotta rip that all out. I didn't have to do that once.
I trust Tom completely, and obviously he helped make some decisions on things that save some money at different points. If you have a deck where you don't see the bottom of it, your Trex doesn't really need to have wood grain on both sides of it, which initially we'd picked, and it's about twice the money, but you don't need it if you're never gonna see the underside. So he's very helpful on that kind of stuff. Attention to detail, and like I say, the ability to carry out things that, sometimes seem kind of crazy. When we decided in the wine cellar, for example, I wanted to do kind of a mosaic on one wall with old deconstructed wine boxes, and Chase and the guys were able to put that together and bring that to life. And then this room, building that table, we saw it at a home show, had some pictures, and next thing you know, we have one here. So that part's been a lot of fun.
Whether it's Chase or Tom, I think it's that same ethic. They're good people. They're caring people, competent at what they do. All right, that's important. They do know what they're doing. Always honest with you. And again, just wanted us to be happy at the end of the day. And if it cost what it cost, he told us what it cost. And either we wanted it for that or we didn't. Mm-hmm. Afterwards, if there's ever been an issue, Tom's always, come back and taken care of it.
They've just, every time we've called them, they come out or they send someone out. To Gary and I, that shows that they have pride in their work and they want their customer happy. That is a really good relationship.
They're always available with a phone call or a text, and even after the project is done, to come back. And we had a big storm a year after we moved in that blew in part of the barn door, and the next day they were out helping. So I think that was something extremely positive.
I always felt like they kept the site really neat. Everyone was really polite. The site manager.
His site manager.
Super friendly.
Always a smile. Mr. Kirsch, Mrs. Kirsch, how are you doing?
It's just quality. Quality, quality, quality. When he's building a house, he's also, would I do this in my house? And I think that brings real sincerity in the quality of his work.
I think at the end of the day, the big thing I would say is they genuinely cared about the product they were producing. And they were as excited about how this house turned out, I think, as we were.
Oh my gosh, he brings his friends and family over to see it. You know, and
so
I think that's neat.
I think that tells the story right there. When they're as excited about how things turn out as you are, and then when they see your furniture in it and they're all excited about how the furniture looks, you know, that just tells you that they cared as much as you did.